I'm going to take the contrary point.
Well, you're wrong.
Welcome to amorephillyunion, the podcast where, when it comes to José Martinez, we're not crying, you're crying. We are your hosts. I'm E.
I'm C.
And I'm Paul. Those stupid onion chopping gremlins. Oh my God.
It's been a little bit of an emotional weekend here at AMPU Studios. So we're going to get into all that. First, just a bit of the housekeeping up front. Special thanks to Paul for covering the episode last week while everybody was out running about.
My pleasure. Hopefully people listened.
Yeah, it was good. I'm like, hey, this guy, he should make a podcast. He's pretty good.
It is really weird running it on your own, not having anybody to bounce things off of or give people give people a space to chime in. Congratulations and my respect to all of those solo podcasters out there.
Yeah,
you're right.
I gotta say this too. As I was editing it, I was amazed at the long stretches of talking that you just were able to just dish out without pausing or umming and ahhing or stalling. It was just like, I'm gonna talk about A and then B and then there's C and then D happened and then E and then F. I'm like, man, we should just let Paul do the podcast every week. I'll still edit it, but no, thanks for covering. It was a welcome little break, sort of, I guess. I don't know. Thanks for covering the episode. So for the Help Us Help the You challenge, we don't have any stretch goals going on right now. So until we do, and in the meantime, feel free to head over to the foundation's website, PhiladelphiaUnionFoundation.org. They have a donate button there you can click on to send them some love. And if you want to tell them that a More Philly Union sent you, that would be pretty cool. All right. Leagues Cup action. We've had conversations and we're going to get into the details, but Leagues Cup is, just like last year, is becoming a fun tournament. I know at the beginning of the tournament, we're always like, Leagues Cup, why?
Leagues Cup, why? And now it's like, why not?
And then we get this far, and we're like, it's all about Leagues Cup.
Yep.
So, well, first off,
I'll just point out that I'm not totally on board yet. I'm just along for the ride. Because I'm, it's either I'm along for the ride or I get dragged behind on the bumper. I don't want to say that I'm the dog from Vacation. And it's kind of I just had a ride or die here.
Oh man.
Feel free to edit that as you need.
We'll see what I can do. Okay, so before we talk about the Union playing Mazatlán on Saturday, hashtag nailed it. Since Christy and I weren't here for the commentary on the Cincinnati game, happy that we beat Cincinnati. Not that we don't like Cincinnati. There's fine players and staff members on that team, but it feels like
I was probably happier that we beat Cincinnati than that we beat Cincinnati in the Leagues Cup. You know what I mean? Like just the fact that we beat them.
Oh yeah. It was second that it wasn't so much that it was Leagues Cup, it's that we beat Cincinnati.
Right.
Because they seem to have our number for a while.
Well, because considering they're Midwestern Union.
What did you guys think of that? I mean, I know we didn't get a chance to talk about either that or the Montreal game, as I had to run it solo. But did you guys have any thoughts on those two games that you wanted? Anything stand out about the home game against Montreal or the surprisingly effective away game in Cincinnati?
What do you got?
So my it's like this weird stream of consciousness series of notes, but they did capture just fun stuff. Captured Cavan dancing at the half, which was a little Justin Bieber-esque. But anyway,
during the Cincinnati game.
During Cincinnati.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it was a little like salsa.
Yeah. So basically my notes are just like our players' names in all caps with exclamation points every time they scored, which was my takeaway was a big surprise.
All right. Well, should we kind of get to the big
The meat
game
of this week.
on Saturday, which is actually yesterday? We are recording early this week, which is a nice little change. I don't know. We'll see if this keeps going. I don't know. Probably not. But so the Union, after beating Cincinnati, they move forward in Leagues Cup. This is a quarterfinal match. It was yesterday, Saturday, against Mazatlán.
Oh, so close.
So close.
I know. Why can't I
Mazatlán.
Mazatlán. I'll get it. This game, Mazatlán made it to quarterfinals because they went to PKs against
Cruz Azul.
Cruz Azul, which was a little bit of I don't want to say revenge, but like, you know, we went to PKs,
Lost.
Cruz Azul and lost. Mazatlán went to PKs with Cruz Azul and won.
And on paper, Mazatlán should not have won that game. Again, on
Yep.
paper. Because I did not realize, this is my ignorance showing, but the Cruz Azul was pretty much currently like top
Yeah,
ranked
like first in
I
the
think,
Mexican League.
in the
Yeah.
Mexican League. And Mazatlán, I think at the time was 11th
Like
or
near the
something.
bottom. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty near the bottom. So so that was an upset to start with.
I mean, they in their game, Cruz Azul. Gosh, wow! Now I'm realizing the nice symmetry or parallels here. So Cruz Azul went down a man, and Mazatlán was able to. Or did they go down a man? No, Cruz Azul was down a man.
Cruz
And
Azul was
Mazatlán were able to hold on and went to PKs and they won it. And it had a similar result in this game. So let's just kind of get to the finish about the game. The Union won. It was a chippy game. It was a chippy game. First off, the attendance was, you know, because we watched it on TV. It wasn't a packed stadium for sure.
No.
But it definitely seemed like there was majority Union supporters there.
Yeah.
I would
The
say
cameras
so.
kept picking out the same family when Mazatlán would do something.
Really?
Yeah. seemed to be, or the same few,
Yeah.
like maybe rotating among three. I'm sure there were plenty more than that, but they definitely weren't orange jerseys.
Yeah.
That I was seeing at least.
Yeah.
It seemed that they managed to keep them out of the Sons of Ben section anyway.
I guess.
And a lot of other people. There really weren't many people.
Yeah.
Nope.
Although Sons of Ben did fly a tifo
they
Yes.
did.
for Martinez, which we'll get to in a little bit, because this was pretty much was going to be his last game with the club. So it was good to see the public support and love for
Yeah.
our favorite Leo here.
Mhm.
But back to the game here. It was pretty chippy. A lot of players going down.
They made mention the last 3 games before this that Mazatlán basically the last 3 Mazatlán games all had a red card to the other team.
To the other team.
Oh,
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. That's right. I remember them saying this.
And so going into that, it was kind of a little bit of warning that Mazatlán likes to dive.
Yeah.
And it actually has some acting lessons happening down there. I don't know if Mazatlán is the Hollywood of Mexico
Yeah.
or more, the Broadway of Mexico. I don't know if they're more
They're
musical
very
theater.
method in their technique.
But yeah, they were definitely making use of any touch, any contact at all where they thought they could get something out of it. They went down.
Yeah, I know the announcers, Danny Higginbottom being one of them, said that Mazatlán has a tendency of something except like getting under the other team's skin or something like that. With just they had this ability to draw those fouls, and if you draw enough of them, a card is going to come out eventually. And
baiting other teams into red cards, quote unquote, from Curtin, actually.
Yes, baiting. That's the right word. And I think that was definitely on display in this game,
which is kind of it's part of the the bad reputation in soccer that there are teams that will there are players that will flop, there are teams that will flop. I remember reading, I can't remember what book it was in now, but they were talking about this, and that in some areas this isn't considered flopping, but rather doing what your team needs you to do to win a game. And it's part of the game in their approach is playing the referee.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's disgusting. I'll be put it out there
Yeah.
on Front Street. It does nothing but frustrate me while I'm watching it. And if so maybe it would be really effective against somebody like me. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'd be inclined to really start fouling players if they were just going to go down anyway. If I'm going to get a card, I want to make sure I earned it.
Yeah, right. It's kind of like when we were kids and you play like, hide and seek in the neighborhood and you say, okay, the boundaries for the game are these 4 houses. And the rule was if you went outside the boundary, you were automatically caught. But the rule didn't say you couldn't go outside. The rule was if you go outside the boundaries, you're caught. And I remember times going outside the boundaries to kind of totally go around to the other side to try to sneak in. But it's kind of like I wasn't breaking the rules. I was still abiding by them. If I got caught out there, I would, like, hey, I got caught. So I feel like that's the way it is. It's like there's no rule saying that you can't try to play the ref into, play a foul or a card in your favor.
Mhm.
But it's still like it goes against the spirit of it, But I think kind of what was on display was then in this first half, the Baribo incident. It was in their 18 box. So Baribo's first yellow card was in the 40th minute. There was a set piece of some kind of, it was a corner kick. Baribo was in the 18 box, jostling with the one Mazatlán defender. And man, on that replay, it was nothing. And this guy went down, like holding his face, and the ref gave Baribo a yellow card. I was like, it was a weak foul. I mean,
I want to know what the referee thought he saw. Yeah. Referees are supposed to call the game that they saw. Yeah. So not just because some guy goes down, you actually have to see the foul to call the foul. Yeah. So what did he think he saw Baribo do? Because it looked like, maybe there was an arm to the stomach, an elbow to the stomach at worst.
At worst.
But, there's a saying in American football that if a referee wants to call a foul, they can literally call a foul on every single play based off of what happens on the line. When there's in soccer, when they're in the scrum in the middle during a corner kick, if you look hard enough, you could call a foul on every single restart. But they don't. They have to let some things play. And this was nothing. There was no foul there worth calling.
100%. It was nothing. And then 5 minutes later, there's another, I think it was another Union corner kick. And it was Baribo and it was the same defender, wasn't it? Same guy. This one looked a little bit more of a foul.
He sold it.
He sold it. He absolutely sold it. He went down, like he just got, assaulted. And the ref went straight red card. It wasn't even like a second yellow. It went to straight red. And I still remember Baribo kind of gesturing at the ref up towards the Jumbotron. Like, look at the replay. Like, I didn't touch this guy, or
his hand did kind of go, and that one, Baribo's hand did kind of go up into the upper chest, neck area of this player, and he went down grabbing.
Of the two, this was the more severe looking one. And
I still wouldn't have called it a foul.
This one I could see possibly calling a yellow. The first one, no way. The first one, no way. So when it went to the red card, and then like there was, everyone's, yelling or whatever, he goes over, he does the VAR, and he calls back the red and gives as a yellow, which is his second yellow, and Baribo still goes off anyway. But yeah, I thought it was a combination of things.
It was funny on the second card when they were showing the replay a million times while they were doing VAR and all that kind of stuff, that you could see in the background Ura actually getting like mugged, basically.
Oh yeah.
But he just fully had his arms, like the other player whose name I do not know, fully had his arms around him and around his torso. Back, and I was
like, are you kidding me?
So we're worried about but excuse me.
Yeah, totally.
Well, and then earlier in the game, there was Gazdag was making a break down the one side, and he got fouled, and the Mazatlán player landed on top of him, and as he was getting up, literally put his hand on Gazdag's neck as he was getting up.
Oh, for crying out loud.
And got nothing.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was terrible officiating.
Yeah. The officiating was terrible. The the shenanigans on Mazatlan's players' part. I mean, I really thought it was, yeah, like you said, Paul, they were willing to go out of bounds in this game of hide and seek. And it was so obvious. And it was just, yeah. So I feel like Baribo got, quote unquote, he got baited to a certain degree. And yeah, so at this point, the Union
It was clear he had been targeted.
Yeah.
Don't you think? I mean, like that they were trying because they knew he was the goal scorer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I think you're right.
Yeah. So to me, that's and I got nervous when he got sent off because I mean I know we have other players, but he's just been doing so well. I'm sure he was disappointed, and we don't have him for the next game now too.
Yeah. Why not get him carded and possibly out? And they succeeded. However, that fairly sizable gray storm cloud did have a silver lining.
In the form of a Great Dane.
In the form of a Great Dane. Which I never really thought to call or that, but one of the announcers referred to it was like, the Union's Great Dane.
Yeah.
Scooby-Doo is a great
so good.
Is that going to be a nickname?
Oh, no.
I don't know. God, no. I hope not. For his sake, I hope not.
Rats in your meat.
Wait, who's Shaggy then?
Yeah.
Oh.
Zoinks.
Okay.
Anyway, edit this out. Yeah, the Aura goal. Like 2 minutes later, it was such a rallying response to that red card.
Well, we've talked about it before, right? A team goes down a man, and either they pack it in or happens better.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this one, that the play, I mean, it starts with a turn with Kai Wagner winning a ball deep in Union territory, finding McGlynn out wide, and Aura timing his run and mind melding with Jack McGlynn. Jack McGlynn's pass is
pass was such a great pass. Such a great leading, like it was like perfectly balanced, like fast enough to get out in front of everybody, but not too fast that Aura couldn't get there.
And Aura was huge, way ahead of the defense. Like you watch that and you've realized, oh yeah, he is that fast.
The hyperdrive was working. And I remember just watching him like taking the ball down the left side, turn towards the 18 box, and you could see like the defenders are all falling back. Gosdog and everything, they're leading the charge to try to keep up with everything. But I remember thinking like he doesn't have a clear teammate to pass to. But at this point, he's approaching the back line. And I remember thinking, like, who are you going to pass to? Well, you don't have to pass to anybody.
Now when Aura gets creative and chips the keeper.
It just just arcs so gently over that keeper. And,
right into the side net.
Yeah, the far side. And at that point, I don't know what the attendance was in the stadium, but it sounded like it was packed.
Yeah.
It was just it exploded with cheers. No, but anyway, I mean, it was such a bittersweet ending to the first half. We lose Baribo via red card, but Aura gets this just sublime goal, and we're up 1-0. I can only imagine what was discussed in the locker room, but it definitely in the second half. It was kind of all about just we got to hold this,
Yeah,
it's interesting. We got to hold this 1 point lead, but it does lend itself to the Union's strategy, right? Where you're not worried about possessing, right? You're gonna let them attack, and then you stop the attack and try to launch a counter. Now, when you're down a man, sometimes you settle for a clearing instead of a counter. But I think it lends to our kind of overall strategy of this counterattacking, where you let them attack. It's just that if you let them attack enough times, eventually one's going to go in, which they did, right? Around that, was it the 60th minute where they
59th, 60th minute, something like that.
It was just after Glaz's got a yellow card, and there was a bit of shenanigans there too, which we needn't get into. But
what was Glaz's yellow card for?
It was little.
Was it also
for being a Union player? Yeah,
it
was for being a Union player.
Yeah. it was for some defensive something he did, but was it real or was it not? I don't know.
That was the professional foul where they were making a fast break.
Oh yeah,
he caught up with them
in Jersey.
Yeah. And in defense of that Mazatlán player, he didn't go down easy.
Yeah,
like he tried to keep the play going, but
that's right.
It was a solid foul. wasn't egregious, wasn't out for an injury, but he was definitely fouling
Yeah.
the player to slow down the attack.
I think for me at this point, I was gearing myself up and hoping to get to the end of regulation tied and go to PKs. If we could get in that surprise second goal, obviously I was in favor of that. But at that point, once they equalized, I was like, man, just get to 90 minutes and we'll go to PKs.
Well, and
All
then
right,
Curtin
so-
made the substitutions,
Oh, yes.
which I don't know if I'm jumping the
Yes.
gun by saying, but
So let's talk about the substitutions.
I thought they were brilliant.
yeah.
But there was the important one I want to get to.
Mm.
Because there was a batch where basically Aura, McLean, Sullivan came out, Bueno,
Yep.
Lowe, and
Mhm.
Bedoya came in.
Right.
So I think for me, that was more of especially bringing out McLean, replacing him with Lowe, or with Bueno. And then Bedoya for Sullivan is kind of 1-for-1 to a certain degree.
To an extent.
But to me, this was, we're going to batten down the hatches at this point. We're going to play more defensive.
We're not going to give up another goal.
We're not going to give up
Mhm.
another goal.
Yeah. You're putting the voice of reason out there, a defender. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Other story going along with this game, right, is that José Martinez is pretty much he's going to be traded to Corinthians in the Brazilian league, and like similar, I guess what it was with Carranza, part of this transfer. I get the impression it's not actually literally spelled out, but because his transfer is going to go through, you don't play the guy because you don't want to get him injured, and then he transfers to his new team with an injury.
Right.
So it's
He was
almost
on
like
the bench
Yeah.
in uniform, but Jim Curtin said supposedly
Oh,
that
yeah.
there was no chance of him coming in because of the impending transfer.
unless we were like winning and it was just going to go out there just to see the game to the
A victory
finish.
lap.
So
to
you
the
could go out
finish.
there exactly,
Yeah.
and we could all cheer for him.
Mhm.
And so we were not expecting him to come in because like the only way he was going to come in was the game was a done deal. We were going to win it, etc. But it wasn't a done deal.
Mhm.
And then next thing you know, we see Martinez coming off the bench, and it was just
In second half stoppage.
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this, and what do you think was going on like with Martinez? Do you think he was asking to come in? Do you think Curtin's like, we need to have this guy in the game? A little bit of both. I don't know. What do you think?
I kind of wonder if Curtin let his emotions make this decision for him. He pulled Flock off. In a penalty shootout, I would take Martinez over Flock.
Yeah.
So there is something there. Certainly finishing out the game. Interestingly, Martinez did not play the center defensive midfielder when he came on. He was out left, and Bueno stayed in the middle.
Oh, that's right. Bueno was already in. Yeah.
So Martinez was given a little more freedom to do what he wanted on the field. I don't know. I mean, I do think that Jim kind of let his heart lead this one and put him in.
It was such a movie
Yeah.
kind of thing, especially the way it played out. It might not have been, but it was, I mean, God help me, it reminded me of The Replacements.
See, I was going to make a Ted Lasso reference for the subs because that's what Nate did. When Ted disappeared, he parked the bus.
Yeah. No, but this it was, we need heart, lots and lots of heart.
Yeah.
Who are you going to put in? But yeah, it was very cute too when he was getting ready to go and he was so excited to go in. He still had his pinny on and like behind him, like with a little kid, like stripping the pinny off.
He's got to come off, dude.
Eric actually caught that and like rewound it. So so it was, I mean, the place was nuts. I know, our friend Gabe from We the Union was actually there, and he said it was very cinematic, and like it truly, it really, people did go crazy to see him going on.
Yeah.
So
I think it was probably a both because I gotta imagine. I have to imagine if it's not the case. I don't need to know. It's just the universe I choose to live in. But I have to imagine Martinez wanted to come in. Like, he wanted to come in.
I think probably much of the second half,
I could just see
sitting
him
there
like
saying,
sit on the bench,
hey.
and Curtin's there, in front. He's like, coach, and he's like, yeah, Jose, I got this. He's like, coach. It's like, okay, And I think Curtin would want to bring him in too. And I think at this point, it's just like, contract be damned, let's bring this guy in.
Yeah.
Like I could see him like, pulling the penny off, of like just also saying, do not get hurt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do whatever you need to do, but just don't get hurt.
Yeah.
But he wasn't on long before the full-time whistle was blown and it went to PKs.
It's like 7 minutes stoppage, I think it was.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
Can't remember if it was 7 in the first half or the second
Yeah,
half. That sounds right.
But yeah, it goes to PKs. And
it was interesting when they did the coin flip, like you could actually hear them pick.
Yep.
And not surprisingly, when Mazatlán picked, won the first coin toss and they could pick which side it was, they picked away from the Sons of Ben.
Smart.
And then I guess the Union won the second coin flip. And this surprised me, but Blake actually said that Mazatlán would shoot first.
I think that's actually I think that is the preferred. Like psychologically, I'd rather be the team. Hold on. I gotta think about this.
See, I'd want to be applying the pressure by going first and getting ahead of the other team.
Yeah. But in this case, I mean, and the way this, obviously the Union won this game, but like, because Mazatlán shot first and missed. So in that case,
no, they didn't miss.
Oh, sorry, it was blocked by Blake.
Saved it.
Blake stopped it. Yes, I stand corrected.
Our Blake wall came into effect.
Yeah, and at that point now you are chasing the game. Even though you shot first, you are absolutely chasing this game.
Absolutely.
And then our first shooter was Martinez.
Yeah,
and I remember we're watching this game, and it's just like he has to make this. The soccer gods.
Not always. He pulls some shenanigans sometimes with the
stutter step.
He makes me nervous with his stutter step.
Yeah.
So
And just like this is literally the last play he's going to be
for so many reasons
as a Union player.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it
turns out he could have done it from 3 times as far.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was, Blake ran over and kind of congratulated everyone.
Yeah.
But he turned, Martinez turned around and did the heart hands, and it was high five. Everybody was not exactly high fiving, but hand slapping and doing the whole thing because everybody knew
that was his last play as a Union player,
which was such a nice way to go out. I'm just really hoping that we pulled it off entirely after that.
Yeah.
So
I don't think we need to go shot by shot, but I do think it's worth discussing. So Blake stopped 2 shots.
Blake saved 2.
And Christy, you pointed this out.
Yeah.
The difference between this PK and the Cruz Azul PK.
Yeah. He seemed much more engaged. And I think it's because, and I think they said something to this effect that the Cruz Azul penalties didn't matter as much. So especially with him coming back from injury fairly recently, why risk it?
I also wonder if it's because they had more film on Mazatlán taking penalty kicks because they've been in so many penalty kick games.
Yeah,
that Blake and the goalkeeping coaches had an opportunity to examine. Well, what are their tendencies? Do they have tendencies? And can we take advantage of it? And he definitely seemed comfortable.
He seemed a lot more energized to me too in this, just more engaged in general. I mean, obviously it meant a lot more on a lot of levels, but so in fact, the other game did not look like Blake at all, but I mean, I'm not saying he should have stopped more. I mean, I know it's extremely difficult, but it kind of didn't look like it was there. So
I mean, in my opinion, once a keeper blocks 1 shot during the 5 goal or the 5 PK, I think like he's done his job.
That's what you yelled at the TV.
Yeah, he did his job. He stopped 1 shot.
Yep.
At that point, statistically now, your team is favored to win once you block that first one. Now if the other team blocks one, then the things are level.
It was interesting. The Mazatlán goalkeeper kept trying to get the attention of the Union penalty kickers as he was getting lined up. He would go, hey,
yeah,
and then he would whistle at them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so Martinez scored first.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was it Elliott was second?
Oh, it was second. He converted, and I was funny when he scored his. It was kind of interesting. I was watching Elliott because the last time against Cruz Azul, remember he turned around because the
Mhm.
Cruz Azul keeper was doing all that shenanigans before the shot, wasting time and just throwing off the rhythm of the game. Which again, he's not breaking the rules, but he's again running outside of bounds in this game of hide and seek. And I was looking at Elliott when he scored to see if he was shooting any daggers at this goalkeeper, but
No,
this
not
keeper was
similar.
much more tame, I think.
Yeah.
And then Damian Lowe scored his.
Uh-huh.
Thank God.
So
For
right
some-
there,
that
you
one
have,
made me a little nervous. Did he stutter step that
he
one?
did. He did have
Yeah.
a stutter step. So that was three defensive players, two
Yeah.
center defenders, and a center defensive midfielder.
Yeah.
And then Sam Medinaron,
I
our
know.
actual forward, comes up
That first possible goal.
and he missed.
He
He
missed.
put it off the upright.
Ugh.
I mean, it was a chance to win the game, to end the game, because
Yeah.
at that point Blake had saved two.
Yeah.
We needed one more goal to win the game,
Yeah.
win the shootout, and he put it off the upright. I mean, I'm sure he's kicking himself harder than anybody else could, but that was off.
Yeah.
But then it came back down to our other Venezuelan center defensive midfielder, Bueno, Jesus Bueno, to take the fifth and final shot, and he cleanly put it away, and the Union were able to celebrate. I thought it was awesome that Martinez was the first one to get to him, to hug him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know you said there's that awesome, someone got that shot of like basically Martinez and Bueno hugging. And it was like only a few seconds, and then everybody else is around them. So they timed it really well.
Yeah, I mean, the only way it would have been a more Disney finish is if Bueno went first and Martinez went fifth to finish the game and win it.
Honestly, I couldn't handle that. I would be like, I would be in the fetal position, like, soccer gods, don't do this to me. I can't take this.
So quite a bit of drama there at the end of that game.
So yeah, and after the match, they showed. I mean, Martinez did not want to leave the field.
No.
I don't think he was giving a post game interview with. I'm not sure which outlet exactly, but you could see just red eyes, tears streaming down his face.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys caught that Higginbottom said that Curtin basically said that he loved him. This was his favorite player and he didn't want him to go. I thought, wow. I mean, I don't know if there was a bit of hyperbole there, but I'm sure there's a lot of truth to it. And I don't think anybody wants him to go. I think everybody's maybe a little blindsided. I mean, maybe not the true insiders, but I was a little blindsided by it. I didn't expect. Everybody had been talking Carranza, so we saw that coming. This I didn't expect in the same way.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I did see on Philly soccer page they talk about this is probably he's 30. It's a little closer to home.
Yeah.
It could be that this is the final massive contract for him to see out his career, set his family up for the rest of for their posterity. I'm sure Corinthians is paying a pretty penny to have him because they have quite a few years on his contract. It's not like he was out of contract. I think he had at least 2 more years on his contract. So, the contract that they're getting is well organized and, it's in place. So definitely this is good for Corinthians. This is, hopefully they're paying him well. I'm sure part of the transfer, they're going to renegotiate his contract and hopefully he gets paid very well. And I'm also kind of interested to see what the Union are going to get for him because Martinez has been, if not the best center defensive midfield in the league for the last 5 years, but top 3 at least.
And Danny Higginbotham would agree with you. I think he said he is the best defensive midfielder in the league.
Yeah. And he's been that way since he came here.
Yeah.
And I know Curtin made reference to the LAFC game where they didn't expect to have to put him on, but then they did. And like you could just see the bite in him. And thinking back on his time here with the Union, I try to think of other players in other sports that represent what Philly means. And, Martinez really does. He plays hard. Like when he's on the field, he's putting everything into the game.
Yeah.
I almost think of him a little bit like Brian Dawkins, in the sense that, he's going to run through a wall to do what he needs to help the team win. And I don't think he necessarily has quite the same mentality as Dawkins, but certainly, there's a flash, there's a flair, there's a samba kind of movement, attitude to Martinez.
Definitely.
And I think he was a great addition. We're lucky to have had him.
Yeah.
It's sad to see him go, but if they ever do one day retirement contracts or anything like that, I hope they bring him back and let him retire as a Union player.
Absolutely, because I think this match cemented his Philadelphia status. And his post game reaction and I just basically like a few things for me. Like if you were to, and please don't ever do this, but go back and listen to this podcast from the beginning, and listen. Like you can hear me slowly falling in love with Martinez.
Yes, I agree. I was going to point that out.
Yeah, because I before that he's El Brujo, great, fine, but like I think I started paying attention more because of us doing this and that kind of thing, and so there was that, and he slowly became one of my favorite players, not because of the way he played, but because the way he, his spirit, truly his heart. I mean, not to be cheesy, but here we go. And then, if nothing else, like not just the fact that he had this Disney match finish kind of thing that we keep saying, but also just the way that he felt, that he was upset that he was leaving. So many people leave the Union, and they put out a statement that Philly will always be in their heart and stuff like that, and I'm sure it is. But it was a career stop. They enjoyed their time. I'm sure they'll miss it in some level, but on to the next. I don't get that feeling. Like, I'm sure this is going to be on to the next. It's probably a great career move. It's good for the Union money and all that, blah 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 blah. But on top of it, then I think his departure really just cemented his place in maybe a small corner of Philadelphia sports history and fandom. But still, this was a pleasure a painful pleasure to witness that all going on. I almost wish we were there, but I think we might have gotten a little more out of it actually seeing it.
Well, again, it came up so suddenly. None of us knew that this was likely to happen.
Right.
And I would also say that, he showed a lot of growth in his time here. Like when he first got here, like yellow card. And, occasionally he would double yellow and red out of the game. This year in particular, like we were talking about multiple times, he would foul a lot, but he was not one of the ones who gathered a lot of cards. He found that level that he could take it to and get away with. And then also his game has improved. His ability, his passing vision, and his passing range this year was startlingly good. I don't know if it was his time with Venezuela, but I 100% understand why Corinthians would want to pay a transfer fee to bring him on. Just so much better this year. Every year has gotten better. And so, best of luck to him. And absolutely, we are going to miss him as a player, as a person, just all around.
It's funny as we're all talking, it's like I almost feel like we're giving like a eulogy here,
I'm just happy I got to speak really bad Spanish to him.
Honestly, you're gonna remember that. We went to one of the fan events where you can get all the players are at various tables around the stadium. You can get signed, and Christy, you had your chance. I'm sure we probably talked about it on an episode, but you want to remind everybody.
Well, so he and I share a birthday, not sadly not the same year. I did tell him in my I took Spanish for 4 years, but you wouldn't know it. then pieced together,
Yeah.
telling him that we have our birthdays were on the same day, and he understood me, and that was a win for me.
I remember when we were at the table because I kind of went first and
Yeah.
and then I got my phone and I start recording the video, and like it was in the under the stand, so it's
Yeah.
very cavernous and the audio is not great, but you can hear Christy talking and you can't really make out the words, and I just see the look on his face, kind of like, wait, this woman's speaking Spanish, and I just see him go, what, like that. and then you repeat it again, and he kind of leaned back and he smiled. He's like, and he said something like, just between the two of you, and he's like, and he just kind of laughed and he kept signing. I'm like, that's Martinez. He had that, I don't know, that troublemaking joy about him. But I remember earlier in the season, like we were all expecting Carranza to go at some point. I felt like the writing was on the wall, and it's like, is it going to happen during the off-season transfer window? Will it happen during the summer transfer window? It's all a matter of when is it going to happen. And then it was Copa, right? Where Martinez was down there playing for Venezuela, and then he came back, and there was that slightly cryptic post where he was in Philly, but he said something about the adventure or the journey continues. And remember, we talked about like, wait, what? What's going on? Now, I'm not saying it's connected. I'm not saying it's like he knew at the time.
We don't know anything.
But even just humoring that idea of Martinez leaving, I was like, oh, I don't like that, And so when this came out that I forget who forwarded it on their group chat, but basically that Corinthians was gonna, it was all but a done deal. I was just like, it was like a gut punch. And just to echo your thought on this, Christy, I was the same way. I remember we got Martinez, and I was right there at the beginning, like, man, this guy's good, but he's a card magnet. He just causes more problems than he solves. And and then Paul, it was you who was saying, but point out like the results, like when he's on the field, we perform better. I'm like, yeah, maybe, but when we don't perform, it's because he's getting sent off with all these cards. But he totally turned it around, and I was like, I was a true believer by the end, like for the past like year, like when Martinez is on the field, it's like good. He's on the field. Everything's going to be okay. We might not win, but everything's going to be okay. So yeah, and so when this trade came up, I was just, oh man, it was a gut punch. And then,
well, it was a gut punch to Jim too, because he said that he seems to have had a really, really good relationship with him and a lot of respect for him. And I think Jim was probably responsible for him calming down a little bit out there, for learning how to channel some of that stuff. Like
some Ted Lasso coaching going on there. You don't just worry about how to play the game. It's how to be the better person too, I
mean, I almost spoke about him like a son in a way, like, I mean, not to get too, hyperbolic, but so anyway, but like Paul said, we wish him the best.
Yeah.
He'll always be a Union player to us.
I mean, I'll be honest, the Corinthians website is going to be popping up on my web browser now, just because I want to keep track of what he's doing. Yeah. And like, I agree, Paul, if whenever his end of his career comes, if we can get him like a 1-day contract and have him retire as a Union player, that would be awesome. But, a year or so ago when he was out there and I wasn't convinced on him, he absolutely won me over. Absolutely. So, yeah.
And I also think that his effect in the locker room is going to be missed.
Oh, yeah.
Like you could see that he has that relationship with Bueno. He has a relationship with Flock. He has a relationship with Bedoya. Like, there's definitely some mutual respect between him and Bedoya. And, just the whole team, he speaks and they listen.
Yeah.
Hopefully they understand his Spanish, but it's definitely he brings joy to the game.
Yeah,
like we talked about before. When this team plays confident, they play better, and he's a part of that. Like that position is critical for the team playing well, and he's definitely been a leader. And that's whoever's taken over that role, whether that's Flock or Bueno as the standard starter.
Yeah,
they have big shoes to fill.
Man. Absolutely.
I hope they keep his number handy, and so they can text with him and keep getting advice from him. But it's a tremendous. We were amazingly lucky. Once again.
Yeah.
We don't know what we have until it's gone.
I was
But
just going to say that.
I
Yeah.
think we know in this case what we have,
Yeah.
what we were lucky enough to have with Brujo,
Yeah.
and to get to enjoy. And
Yeah.
again, we're not eulogizing him. The man's not dying.
No, but
He's
his
just not
time
going to be
here.
a Union
Yeah.
player anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. We're just,
We're not
Yeah.
going to be lucky
We're
enough
allowed to be
see him.
sad.
yeah.
It's okay.
Yes, but we've got to be a little bit of a goldfish, and
True.
Not yet.
and
Not
look
yet.
forward.
But true.
We
Tomorrow will
can
be a
sit-
goldfish, but not today.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of tomorrow, the other thought then is where will the Union go after this in terms of, like you said, like so Bueno and Flock are the the obvious kind of players to move into that position. But like you said, he's Martinez still had a year or two on his contract, and the Union stand to make a pretty penny on this transfer. Ernst Tanner usually seems to have some uh, Ernst Tanner moves in mysterious ways, and I'd be curious to see who they bring in. I don't know if they're gonna
Well, this new guy, Danley
Jacques.
Jean-Jacques, yeah, he apparently is also a defensive midfielder, so I think
Okay.
he's going to be in the mix. They did transfer out another midfielder. That was Sander Ngabo.
Mhm.
He moved on to another team in, was it the Dutch second league?
Danish.
Danish second
Yeah.
league. So, there's definitely been some movement during this window.
Yeah.
But hopefully it leads to some good competitive challenging for who's going to get the long-term goal. Personally, I think Flock's going to have it for the near future.
Yeah.
Just because he has played there so
Yeah,
far
yeah.
this season.
Okay, quick little side note. We mentioned Sanders. I don't know if we want to talk about Nelson Pierre.
Yeah, we can roll into that.
Okay. Paul, you want to do it since you were talking about Sanders?
Yeah, since we talked a little bit about personnel moves and such during this transfer window, obviously, the big one that we just spent some time talking about with Martinez, but we did, and I also just mentioned Ngabo's been transferred out. Nelson Pierre was recalled from his loan and has been loaned out again, this time to the Charlotte Independents. Not entirely sure if that was to keep him closer or what. But yeah, so the Union have been making some moves, and I think they, earlier we talked about them letting somebody go on a free. I can't remember who that was now, but yeah. So I mean, it definitely seems to be a little bit of a changing as to who's in the backup and who's in the development pipeline. Hopefully, as the season progresses, if the Union can secure a solid playoff spot, maybe Jim will give some of the secondary or challenging teams or challenging players to players who are developing opportunities to play with the first team. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
Well, we started recording this and our power went out, so there was a little intermission for us. But I did see an interesting headline. Unfortunately, the article was behind a paywall. But so it did get me thinking that with Martin, it was from the Inquirer, and it said basically with Martinez leaving, bit of an opinion piece, but that we better win Leagues Cup if we want to win any hardware with sort of some semblance of the old squad. I mean, obviously I didn't.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, but it did make me think, and I thought, well, it wouldn't be nice. Boy, this feels like I'm really tempting fate. It would be nice to win something with Ali still here.
Yeah.
It's not the league, but it's something. It's the League's Cup. No, but that did make me think a little bit. I would love to have read the article, but like I said, paywall. So it didn't happen. But I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
I think it's an interesting point. I mean, there's been some shakeups in the forward core. but I mean, the defense is still the defense. Like the only real change
Yeah.
there is Harriel's now getting more regular starts than Mbaizo.
Yeah.
Obviously losing Brujo and that center defensive mid
Yeah.
is going to be a loss, but we still have Flock and Gajdog. Bedoya is still starting. Sullivan in these last two games
Yeah.
has once again shown. I still think he has shown in these last two games how good he has gotten this season, and why personally I think he's the most improved of the developing players in the Union squad. And so yeah, I mean there is something to be said to this is the last chance to try to win something. This season is the last chance for this, and obviously getting this far in the Leagues Cup, we're 2 wins away from the League Cup.
Yeah.
That's not that far. And the Union are definitely starting to peak at this point. Maybe not peak, but they're certainly riding hot right now.
Right.
I'm going to take the contrary point.
Oh, interesting.
But not so much that.
Well, you're wrong.
That should get you guys.
I never looked at it that way. No, but I would take the contrary point. Not that we can't or shouldn't win the Leagues Cup, because I think we can and we should win it. But it's kind of like the change now has occurred. Martinez is gone, right? So now we got to learn to deal without him. So now is the time when the equilibrium has been disturbed, and we got to settle down into the new equilibrium, whatever it is. Flock and Bueno moving into Martinez's position, which they've done before, but now this is their position. It's not, if Martinez is there, they get it. It's, they're not taking Martinez's position. It's now theirs. So as they move and make this position their own, the equilibrium of the team then will adjust accordingly. So we need that time to reach that equilibrium, which means the time it takes to get to the MLS Cup. So I would almost make the argument that it's going to be harder now to win those 2 games than it is to win the games we need in the remaining time of the season, and then move through the playoffs and to win the whole thing. I'm really stretching the argument to make my point, and that is, look, Martinez moved into that position and he stepped up. I mean, Curtin during his press conference, the LAFC game, when they brought him in, they were like, okay, this guy has really stepped up and he's this is his role. So why not Flock and why not Bueno? I mean, yes, they've been working at it, but now it's theirs. So let's see what they can do, right? And I'm addressing this to that Inquirer article. It's like, hey, yeah, we've lost a good player, but let's see what these guys can do now when this position is theirs. So let's
I took
and that'll
that,
take time. That'll take time.
I'm sorry. I took that a little bit differently than you. I took it as if we want to win with the folks who, if we think they should have won in 2022, if we want to win with any semblance of that squad left, we need to do it now, because in the off season,
there's going to be a lot
of changes.
Sure.
That's
Sure.
a little bit how I took that.
Oh, I took it as because this is the only hardware we're going to be able to win.
Well, there is a little bit of negadelphia inherent in the headline. That like this is the only thing we can win, because you're not going to do it for the. So there, I can see that too. I read it a little bit like that too, but that it was more what Paul was saying that there are going to be a lot of changes. Ali probably not going to. If he has it in him, I would love to see him back. Forever. But yeah, I mean, there's a good chance that may not happen, especially with his sort of special contract he has this year. Although he's been playing a lot for being on this special strange contract. But anyway, that's how I took that.
All I can play, a different sports movie, and that is Mystery Alaska, when they're playing the Islanders, and the first period goes really well because the Islanders are just coasting, and the local team gets runs up some goals. Second period, the Islanders actually then turn on and just start destroying them, and it's in the break between the second and third period where Burt Reynolds, as the coach, is telling, so he's telling Russell Crowe, who's the captain, like, basically, here's the new strategy. Basically, collapse down. Let's just slow the game down and just try not to let them keep scoring on us. And Russell Crowe's like, why? Because we're not going to be able to get any shots if we're not going to be able to get any scores or score any goals if we play like this. And Burt Reynolds, the coach, is like, yeah, this game is over. I'm just trying to keep it close. And all of a sudden, Russell
Are
Crowe's
you
character just
tired?
stands
I'm
up.
not
He's like,
tired.
I'm not done yet. Like, I'm not done. And he gets all mad. He's like, I'm not tired. And he goes in and they start going around the whole team. So I feel like we're at that Russell Crowe moment with respect to like, this idea of like, well, this is the only thing we're going to get this. So let's just go for it. Like, I'm not done yet. We're not done. So
So I have a new question. Which is the more obscure reference, The Replacements or Mystery Alaska?
I think it's going to be Mystery Alaska. But here's a reason to like the movie Mystery Alaska. I mean, it's a bad good movie or good bad movie. I don't know what to call it.
This off the rails.
But,
Go ahead.
But one of the blurbs about it was it's the Rocky of hockey. So if anything, to our listeners, if you haven't seen Mystery Alaska, it's got some. It's a character driven movie. It's
The Rocky of hockey.
the Rocky of hockey.
Oh boy.
So anyway, but that's how I'm telling myself with the loss of Martinez and all this. We're not done. We're not done.
I like
Oh, yeah.
at the end as they're all taking the ice and Russell Crowe's the last one out the locker room. Burt Reynolds pulls him aside and says,
Yeah.
thanks for the assist.
That was a brilliant move. He just baited his captain to like totally rally the rest of the teammates. Yeah, I forgot about that last little that last part. All right. Well, so the League's Cup continues, and so the Union now will be traveling out to Columbus. That game is going to be Wednesday, which
means that the Union will not be playing the Columbus Crew in the season game that was scheduled for Saturday, since either the Union will win and move on, or Columbus will win and move on. And either way, both of them will have a different game to play on Saturday.
Once again, faint strains of yakety sax in the background.
Oh man. So so this is the semifinal game here for Leagues Cup. It's Union at Columbus. It's gonna be this Wednesday, August 21st at 7:30 p.m. And the winner of this game is going to face the winner of the other semifinal game, which is between LAFC and Colorado, which Colorado they won their game.
Wow. I didn't check that score.
Because they played Club America and it also went down to PKs. And they actually went through the entire team. And the last guys to shoot were the goalkeepers.
Yes.
So Zach Steffen for Colorado scored. And then, I don't know, the goalkeeper for Club America, he took his shot and it went wide. And they lost.
Wow.
And so Colorado won, but there was I thought it was really nice sportsmanship where Zach Steffen went over to the keeper from Club America and gave him a hug and just it was a very just giving some, not condolence, but some comfort, I guess.
Yeah.
So that there was tons of games going to PKs in this tournament. So I'm not sure what that means, but it was interesting.
Well, and you'll notice too that the final four teams are all MLS teams.
Yes.
So real quick question just toss up question for the group. Do we think that there's any unfairness with to the Liga MX?
Yes.
Yeah. But because they play all their games here. I mean, I know some of them that have fans showing up, so it is like a home game, but they're still not playing at
not playing at home
on their turf.
Yeah, this tournament might be different if it was one game home, one game away.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's also like we talked about with regards to the CONCACAF Champions Cup. So Leagues Cup is happening just as Mexican teams are starting to play their season. And then the CONCACAF Champions Cup is starting when is played while the MLS teams are just starting their season.
Yeah.
So it feels like this is kind of a make do or make good for the MLS teams. That, hey, we know you're never really going to stand a great chance at winning the CONCACAF Champions Cup, so we'll put this one in there, and you'll probably win this one a bunch.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a good point though. It's first glance, it's like, wow, all these MLS teams are making it through, but it's like, yeah, but the Mexican teams don't actually play ever on home field. It's
something to ponder.
Something to ponder.
Sure.
I'm sure arguments can be made on both sides, but at first pass, at least for me, it does feel slightly MLS teams have a little bit of the advantage here. So with that said, the final is going to be then on Sunday the 25th. So a week from now, this will all be a done deal. It's also worth noting, it looks like both the final match and then I guess the third place match are both being played on Sunday. So I guess regardless, the Union have 2 more games ahead of them, whether or not they
and they only have to win one to qualify for CONCACAF Champions
so
Cup.
the top 3 teams move on.
That's right. So if they win against Columbus, they'll be in the final, and they'll be at worst second place in Leagues Cup. If they lose against Columbus, they have to, and if they win in the third place game, then they'll be third place in there, and they'll get the get the slot as well. Now, granted, best thing is they win both of them, and end up winning the Leagues Cup and winning whatever that prize money is, and then they'll come back and probably do terribly against Columbus Crew in the season game on the 28th, because they're going to be wiped out after all.
Yeah, I know, gassed, totally gassed.
Because you have tickets for it?
That too.
I guess the other question then too is, regardless of this outcome or which place, if the Union finish first, second, or third next season, are we gonna will our opinion be like, we should just drop out of Champions League?
It's gonna be the same thing.
Just focus on the league. And,
we'll see. Who knows?
Yeah.
Crazily enough, the Union actually have a chance of hosting. If Colorado wins and the Union win, the Union will host the game.
Really? Colorado's ranked lower than the Union?
Colorado was ranked like 43rd or something like that. All right. Yeah, they were of the 8 teams in the final 8. The Mazatlán was only ahead of Colorado.
That's right. I forgot that.
Oh. Well, hey, that would be pretty cool. That'd be really cool. All right. Well, let's cross some fingers and all that.
So I guess you're saying that if they make it, if those combination of things, the Union winning and Colorado winning against LAFC, if that were to happen, you'd go get tickets for the.
I think we would definitely try to, maybe.
Yeah,
it's a shot at silverware. It might be worth being there in the stands.
The other thing too is if LAFC wins, and I guess Olivier Giroud is now with the team, so great for them. It would be a little bit of a deja vu thing if it's Union and LAFC for a cup tournament and they just bring in their big international European player. It's like, oh gosh, this feels way too familiar.
Don't make me hate him too.
Yeah, no, he seems like
him and his meaty French forehead.
Yeah. But so that could be a little bit of reliving.
No,
don't.
Don't
We'll
do it.
We'll see.
Go ahead, say it. Gareth Bale.
He who shall not be named.
His name is not welcome in this house.
Yeah. All right. So, Paul, as you mentioned, with the Union moving on to the semifinal against Columbus, and Columbus also making it to the semifinal, the MLS regular season game, which was originally scheduled for the 24th, is now been bumped to the 28th.
It will be interesting to see 2 tired teams that didn't get the break have to come back and play a season game. I wonder if Curtin might rotate some players. I could see Mbaizo starting. My guess is Blake will still be in there. I would bet Lowe would get a run out there.
We're talking for the MLS game.
Yeah.
I could see.
And Mbaizo's technically on the injured list, although I don't know how injured. They did mention that, but by then he may be. Yeah. So, but I think you have a good point. At least it's a team that hasn't been resting for the last 4 weeks.
Yeah.
I do think they'll be fresher than other teams that weren't playing this far into Leagues Cup.
See, this is the question, right? We were talking about this at lunch today, right?
Yeah.
Is it better for a team to play through as much of the Leagues Cup as possible, and then they don't have as much time to rest before the regular season starts up again, versus a team that just wasn't even in or didn't make it past the first group stage or whatever
stage,
and now they're just kind of sitting around for 2 weeks just practicing and recuperating. it's like, yeah, you'll get your legs back, you'll heal and all those things, but you tend to lose the rhythm of playing, and
Yes, but if the Union had just lost at Mazatlán, then it would only have been a week and a half until they played Columbus, and
yeah, I know.
yeah.
I don't know.
Woulda,
To
coulda,
me, it feels
shoulda.
like the 10 man squad problem.
Mm-mm.
It can kind of go either way.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we'll see.
Not a problem. Not a problem the Union faced this year. They're gonna. It's not like they have an option now.
Yeah, that's true.
They're going forward.
They got 2 more games regardless of the
Well,
outcome.
and they're
So
playing another tired team, so that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
At
that's
least
true.
to start.
I can just see that August 28th game with Columbus. Pass the ball to them. All right, now you pass it back to me. Pass it back. All right, now you pass it back. All right, now you pass it back to me.
Put all the 19-year-olds out there; they'll be fine.
Yeah, put Rob out there. Put
Put Kevin out there.
Kevin out there. Just go run circles. Okay. If you want to join in the conversation, you can get a hold of us a lot of ways. You can check out our website at amorephillyunion.com. Feel free to shoot us an email. We'd love to hear your thoughts on Leagues Cup, whatever. Just feel free to share. Our email address is pod@amorephillyunion.com. On Twitter, we are amorephillyu. Instagram, YouTube, and Threads, we are a More Philly Union. I have no idea what this week's song is going to be, but it's going to get added to our Spotify playlist, or as I like to call it, the soundtrack for our podcast, which is also the same title as A More Philly Union. But look for the little musical notes.
It does say playlist behind it.
Playlist.
Mhm.
There you go. And keep downloading our podcast wherever you download yours. We appreciate the downloads. It's just great having you guys listen. And all right. So thanks everyone for tuning in to another episode of A More Philly Union. We are your hosts. I'm E.
I'm C.
And I'm Paul. Go Union! Felt a little bit.
Mazatlán.
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 Mazet?
Mazatlán. Mazzoland.
I know it's like Mazatlán, matzo balls. I don't know.
And we have our stinger.
Yeah.